Welcome to the 9th episode of the Second Look Hockey Podcast. As always, I'm David Leo. As always, I'm joined with Cristian Ceniti and behind the camera, producer Mando. We're going to start this off. Full disclosure, we're recording this episode on Saturday afternoon. You're probably going to be seeing this episode hopefully after Monday. So that would be after the Super Bowl. Cristian, how was your week?
Week was good, and it just feels like it's been leading up to the weekend, right? Like you dropped it there, Super Bowl weekends. Like that kind of has to be the highlight of the week of the Super Bowl, right? That's kind of it. That's where my mind's been going. And that's
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh yeah. No,
How
it's
are you?
that week before the Super Bowl and like leading up the few days before, it's like while I was at work today, it was packed with people trying to get stuff for ahead of tomorrow, and there's also going to probably be a snowstorm tonight, so it's kind of smart why people are coming ahead of time to kind of save that panic. But Cristian, I put it in our docket. I've kind of been very excited to share this with you guys. I don't know if either of you or producer Mando have heard the story. I have a quick Super Bowl related story. Listen, if there's one thing I love, it's hockey, first and foremost. But another thing that I really, really enjoy as well is history, specifically sports history. And this is easily one of the best facts about the Super Bowl that kind of goes unnoticed and that not many people know about. So I'm going to take you guys back to 2004. It's Super Bowl 38. And I bet you guys wouldn't be able to tell me who played that game. It doesn't really matter because Super Bowl 38 is most infamous for what has been since dubbed as Nipplegate. So during the halftime show of that year's Super Bowl, it was headlined by Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. Now, near the end of their performance, the two were performing a duet to the song "Rock Your Body," and as the choreography kind of goes, Justin Timberlake was supposed to rip off a piece of Janet Jackson's brassiere, like on her bra, and the thought was that under the brassiere was going to be like a pasty, so nothing would be showing, and it's kind of like tongue in cheek, little like funny gag, whatever. But it turns out when Justin Timberlake ended up doing this, he kind of ripped everything off, exposing her full breast for the hundreds of millions of people, the thousands of people in attendance, the hundreds of millions of people watching at home and around the world. And so it's known as Nipplegate because right after the FCC kind of went ballistic on the executives at the NFL. Fun fact, after that, bands like the Rolling Stones, the Who, and those like more dad rock type of bands were scheduled for the next few years after because of the amount of backlash that the NFL, Janet Jackson received as a part of that performance. Now, you guys are probably asking, why am I bringing up this Super Bowl halftime? Well, in California, there was a set of website designers who had saw this go down and the controversy that kind of came around about it, and they weren't able to find a video. Like they wanted to go back and see, like, was that her nipple, like that was on TV. Like a lot of people were still kind of confused because it was such a quick shot. It was like bang and you miss it. And the news coverage, obviously, they can't show the full clip. They have to edit it out for times. And that was the only video that you can find. So three gentlemen in California decided that they somehow were going to find this video. And in doing so, they ended up creating a web browser which let anybody around the world send videos in. You were able to broadcast whatever you wanted. You could upload anything. And that web browser ended up becoming YouTube. So how funny is it that kind of a group of horny software developers came up with the idea of YouTube. And like, we're watching on it today. It's probably one of the biggest pieces of technological like advancement. It's one of the biggest social media platforms over the past 20 years. And especially to what it's like kind of grown into. It's kind of funny how 20 years on or 20 years ago, the entire reason for that even coming about was because people just wanted to see a boob. Like that. That's it. That's so
Two things. Two things.
yeah, go. Hit me with it.
First off, yeah, that was hilarious. Uh, love me some YouTube history with Dave, man. YouTube historian Dave. New
Yeah,
title
yeah.
here. So when you began the story, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, I know of that incident. And then there was the other incident when they actually had JT perform by himself, like more recently. I think that was like maybe only
Yeah,
5 or so years ago.
yeah.
What was I don't even I'm trying to even remember now. There was like something about the kid, right? Some kid went viral in
He was like in the
Timberlake's.
stands.
Yeah, maybe it
Like
was just like a
so
kid who did like a funny dance or something. I was gonna say like
I think he took a picture with him. Was that not
maybe that
the he maybe
maybe
I think he
maybe
like took a selfie with Justin
yeah.
Timberlake and it was just like
When
a
that was a big
goofy.
deal, when like taking someone's phone and a selfie of them, like remember Carey Price did that with a kid, and it was everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god, this is
They did it
incredible!"
at
Yeah.
the Oscars too. That was like a big one as well with like Ellen
So
DeGeneres, like
yeah,
all those people.
I guess like
It's
Timberlake just has to like keep on doing halftime shows because we get like the some of the most viral stuff from him. So that's funny. Shout out JT and Janet Jackson for sponsoring this pod. Then I guess we're not here
yeah,
without them. That's it, right? Moral of
that's
the
very
story.
true. Maybe we're not here without
Yeah,
here in fairness to those guys, they kind of capitalized on that idea because the way that like technology was kind of moving, especially that's like 2004.
yeah.
At some point, somebody was probably gonna stumble upon that invention. They
Yeah, that
capitalized
was
at the
the
perfect
Kickstarter.
time. That was
That's
the
funny.
Kickstarter. It was the catalyst to
Super
YouTube.
super quick. No details really. Just simple score prediction from you for
Go right
Super Bowl
ahead.
weekend when people are watching this on Monday and we look like idiots. What's your
I
score
I think
prediction?
in our I think in our chat, I think I put 27 to 25. I think it's gonna be a like a 3 point game. I'm gonna say 27 to 24 for the Chiefs.
33-27 Eagles. I do not want to
Ooh,
see the Chiefs three-peat, but
no, nor
yeah,
does
that
anybody
doesn't.
else.
It's not a great bet. If it's not great to bet against the Chiefs as we see them, but yeah, let's leave that aside and get to maybe some
Yeah,
packed hockey content for today.
yeah, we do have quite a bit to get to. Um, so to start off, we're gonna take you to Chicago during the week. Chicago and Edmonton were playing on, I believe it was Wednesday night or Thursday night. And during the first intermission, the game was broadcast on TNT. And Paul Bissonnette, part-time anchor, full-time ass kicker of Irish Travelers in Arizona, he went on the air and in part kind of slammed Connor Bedard's recent play. And it was Connor Bedard in general, but also it's kind of like the culture around the Chicago Blackhawks and Connor Bedard. He called his game, to quote him, as he was playing like pond hockey, playing junior style hockey. And he brought up clips which, in his defense, were kind of inexcusable. If I'm gonna be honest, like some of the stuff that he brought up definitely highlighted his point, I guess I would say. He brought up quite a bit of like defensive miscues, missed passes, soft passes, weak back checking,
This is all
especially
just from one game. This is from half of a game, right? Like that's the
from
thing.
a period.
It wasn't like, hey, I'm Paul Bissonnette. Here's my expose on Connor Bedard from the past
Yeah,
like 2 weeks or something. It's like no, that was legitimately
no,
all in one
from
period of hockey,
yeah, well,
right?
20 minutes, man. Like how
Yeah.
like he
No,
brought
you're
up five separate clips
yeah,
in 20
yeah.
minutes.
And before we move on, like I'm right there with you, not to just totally agree on this front. I hope we've got like some good discourse here, but I my first thought watching that was I have no problems with any of the clips shown there and Bissonnette's analysis, right? Like it all lines up. I don't think he
Yeah,
was unfair at all in what he was saying there. Yeah, and then the pop quote coming out of this is pond hockey, right?
Mhm.
So that happens. Do you want to give us kind of where this leads to as far as Bedard's comments after?
Yeah, so after that game, so that was Wednesday evening. Thursday, during practice, Bedard responded to the criticism leveled by Bissonnette, and also I think we should note it was also the rest of the panel as well. Like it's not like it was just Bissonnette what like going
Anson Carter
after.
had some like Anson Carter had some criticism, but I think even he in the end did some a little bit of defending. Like he actually ended up giving like some pushback. And Henrik Lundqvist,
Hunter
I'd say
Glunk,
he also pushed back on Biz. Right, so
yeah,
Biz came on strong, ends his rant with the pond hockey quote, and then Lundqvist basically says it's hard for Bedard to totally eliminate the mistake-free hockey when you play on a team like the Chicago Blackhawks in the state that they're in right now, which is a losing one.
yeah.
So that's kind of more the
So
context there. But what did Bedard say when this got back to him?
so he said during the practice the next day that he said, I'm not watching broadcasts or anything. I'm playing hockey. This is from Chicago Sun-Times reporter Ben Pope, who published these quotes. Their job is to say what they see. I couldn't care less what people on the outside think of me, but I'm not going to be butthurt if someone says I made a bad play. It's their job. I mean, fair, like that's a fair comment to have back, but I think what speaks more apart from this comment is, okay, you have this bit of criticism coming towards you in your next game. How do you respond to it, right? And I don't know if you had anything else on that quote, or we can get on to his crazy performance during Friday night's beat down over the Nashville Predators.
I do have stuff on that quote because
Yeah.
I think this story is way more for me at least about the off ice stuff than the on ice product of Connor Bedard because
Hmm.
I'm not calling Bedard into question for in terms of his potential, um his play at the macro level. At the level, like I just said, like Biznet laid out there, tons of mistakes, can't excuse them. But I really don't have reservations about how good I think Connor Bedard is going to be in terms of living up to the expectation that we put on him from a very, very young age before he even entered the league. I still have confidence in that. But yeah, pop quote here is the word butthurt, right? Um, I
Very,
almost
very
like
pop quote.
I kind of question. I'm trying to figure out what the like the broken telephone is here because I feel like if Bedard watched that segment he wouldn't have the same response that as he did. I almost
I
feel like
think
someone came to him and said, "Hey, did you hear about this, and that?
you
Here's the
nailed
quote,
that.
pawn talk, right?"
You nailed it right on the head.
Yeah,
That is exactly where the disconnect is because when I saw other people also making a massive deal out of it, and in my head, I'm like, but did we watch the same? I refuse to believe that every single person that was critiquing Paul Bissonnette watched what he had to say. That is
yeah.
somebody for, listen, didn't have the longest NHL career. He's not a 1,000 game veteran, 20 plus long like his co-panelist in Henrik
You don't have
Lundqvist.
to be any of
And
that
you
to be an
a
analyst. You don't
hundred
have to
percent,
be any of that, right?
a
How
hundred
many
percent.
analysts do we have on any of the networks that like? Am I supposed to just every time that Frankie Corrado says something about the Leafs on TSN,
Or
reply to
Luke
him in the
Asdick.
comments with, "Hey brother, here's how much you played." Like, no, dude, like that's
Yeah.
the laziest argument you can have.
It
So yeah,
it's funny
that's
because it's Biz Nasty. That's his personality. I
but it's
understand
what it.
100%.
I would
But
also
that
say
was
that clip there, totally serious analysis, no funny business from Biznet.
yes,
Like he
but
was
that's
legitimately like, "I'm gonna be a total analyst here. No,
a
there's
hundred
no
percent.
joke at all."
In the case for Biz Nasty, you'd have to expect in the age that we live in, because he's such a social media personality to begin with, that you're always going to get people kind of pushing
Yeah,
back and saying that stuff about him, because that's how he made his name.
yeah,
His name wasn't made on the ice; it was made off the ice for some of the shenanigans that he had when he was playing, which is fair. But that's also like close to 10 years ago, and the analysis that he brought to the table, there's a reason why TNT pays him that money to be on on TV, right? And that is exactly what they pay him for. I don't see any problem with any of the comments that Biz Nasty
Yeah.
leveled at him. Now, if you want to get into like the nitty gritty of how he chose to speak about it, sure, maybe we could have that debate.
I
But
don't even
even
have problems
still,
there. I think the total onus is on people and how they interpret it. Because, like we just said, if you watch the clip, most likely you're going to come away from that saying, no problem on my end. That's
if
fair analysis all around. That's a really good segment. And so we're saying that Bedard probably didn't see that. He just got told the negative of it.
Mhm.
And that's how you end up with a response like that, which is for a 19-year-old. Like, I also am not going to come down too hard on him for that. And then, yeah, like
well,
Biz obviously
maybe
doesn't care too much about this whole thing either. The last part I want to add to this is the Chicago Blackhawks social media post with the response to Biz, basically
yeah,
22 points in 21 games versus that's what you had in your entire career, Biz. And he responded to that saying that he basically saying that he loved it. Like the NHL is popping off, that he loves this type
yes.
of discourse. And that's
Mhm.
such a, he took the high road there. And he also followed it up with like, here is me at the Winter Classic doing face-off drills
I
with Connor
was
Bedard.
just
Like
about
there
to
is
say,
there's
there's
no
no ill will.
personal there's no battle going on here. And the fact that it's been blown out to this proportion is a little bit ridiculous. It's on the
But
one hand, it's like, yes,
that's
this is great for hockey. On the other hand, I'm just like, this is like a I can we like pop off on social media in other ways? Maybe, I don't know.
you know who it's ridiculous for? That's a ridiculous story for the other major North American leagues because that isn't an issue in the NFL. If somebody goes on TV and is calling out, if you're in the NFL and your receiver is kind of is on the sidelines and he's reading a book, uh, people are going to call out that type of behavior, right? Shout out to AJ Brown, who's might win a Super Bowl by the time this video comes out. But that's only a story in the NHL because what else do we have to talk about? There's literally nothing else. We can't talk about the game because the players in the game don't want to talk about the game, right? So whenever we get something relatively spicy, it becomes a huge issue. This type of stuff does get me a bit hot and bothered, and um, I don't know. I don't see a fix for that, like for the hockey society in
There
general.
doesn't need to be a okay, yeah, no, that's a good point. I was gonna say there doesn't need to be a fix about how this went down between Bedard and Biz. It should stay as it is. But you're right. The reaction, but I think the pessimistic view here is like there is no fix. Like this is kind of
Yeah,
just not, it's not
you
even a
have to deal
hockey
with
thing
it.
at a certain point. It's a just a human thing. Like this is just kind of how it is on social media. So I
So,
wanted to wrap up the convo just like with
mm,
Amanda would put a question here in our rundown as well. They're just kind of pointing the Blackhawks in the right direction. Who would you sign in the summer? If you have a name you can throw one out there, I don't really have one off the top of my head. And I just kind of
I
wanted to say
I don't
that
know if
like
it's
they tried
one.
to do this last year. You're right. It's not one. You're right. They tried to address this last year, bringing in or attempting to bring in Jake Gensel. They went hard for him and they
Mm,
didn't get him. Right. So I can't fault Kyle Davidson for last year. I liked bringing in Teuvo Teravainen. Tyler Bertuzzi's okay, but really the problem with the Blackhawks, it's not, I don't even know if it's a culture problem. It's more just a timeline problem. That's what this comes down to. Is their timeline is a little bit out of whack. Um, and I think really it's kind of tough to aim to hit rock bottom to get Connor Bedard and immediately bounce back. That's not easy. Kind of the only team we've seen do that to like a certain extent is the Leafs, right? Where they bottomed
and
out, got first, and then immediately next year made the playoffs. They were like
but
one of the first teams ever to do that.
yeah,
That
and
should not. Yeah, go on. Go.
who did they have? Like they got Austin Matthews, that was their number one pick,
Yes,
but they
yes.
had
Mitch Marner,
foundations
William
there.
Nylander came
And
up with them.
to,
There isn't that.
and to that point as well, they when Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander first came onto the team,
Yeah.
they also had guys like James Van Reems, like Nazem Kadri, Tyler Bozak, veteran leaders who were on that team for four
So
to
who could
five
have been
plus
those
years.
guys in Chicago? Because
They
I
got
was
rid of
thinking
them.
about this
Nick
too.
Foligno. Or
Well,
now
no,
it's
Nick
Nick
Foligno's
Foligno, I
there.
guess.
Like the name that came to mind for me, or like two names actually, Alex DeBrincat and Dylan Strome.
Hmm.
Right, Dylan Strome, they let him go as a free agent.
Yep.
Right, they didn't tender him as an RFA, and that's what ends up in
That's
Washington doing what he's doing. Right,
that's
and
as
so those
bad.
aren't veterans either, but those are just guys who would have given you a little bit more firepower. To what I'm saying though, you keep those guys on the team that year. Do you get Bedard? Do you bottom out and win that lottery? So
Maybe not.
it's almost like I almost want to compare it to how we talk about Vegas versus Seattle, right? Where Vegas is the exception to the expansion rule, not the expectation.
The rule,
And it
yeah,
and it makes Seattle look really bad in comparison. This is kind of how
100%.
like rebuilds work. Like go back to when Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews were on Chicago. They didn't just immediately win the Stanley Cup. It took a couple years. A couple
Yep.
years. We're now in year two, so there's going to be more expectations next year. But I I'm surprised at how quickly people have come to basically get into corners on the biz front. And actually, no, I haven't seen enough
To get
defensive
into
biz.
corners,
But
that's the
yes, a
problem.
lot of people are coming to the defense of Bedard as if like people are breaking down his entire potential as a player, and that's not the
Yeah.
case. I don't want to. We got more to get on, so
That
I'm done on Bedard.
you brought up a great point. That is just a microcosm of sports as a whole. Like that's not just hockey because anytime a rookie 20-year-old guy has a bit of a down stretch, it's like the world is burning and this player will never reach the potential that though maybe it's expectations that are just too high for some people. I have no idea what it is. I think it's a microcosm of the sports lexicon in general, especially over like the past 10 years. It's a hot take culture that we're living in. And I don't know if that's ever going to change. But shout out to Connor Bedard, man. He's got 22 points in his last 21 games. He's also his 109 points right now are the third most by an active player before turning 20. So listen, at the end of the day, the kid's going to turn out to be a stud, but some criticism about the little parts of his game are definitely warranted.
Hundred
On
percent.
that note, let's head into today on Saturday. That's going to be the last. Sunday is going to be the last slate of games. I think there's only one, but Saturday and Sunday, last slate of games before the Four Nations tournament. And we've already got a couple of question marks on a few of the players, including Team Canada's captain, Sidney Crosby. He left the game on Wednesday night. He didn't play, sorry, Friday night against the New York Rangers. He is TBD for
It
Saturday
was
night.
the injury was against it was Howla. It was against the Devils that it happened,
That
and
game
then
was
he
on
didn't
Wednesday,
play. Yeah, and then he didn't
right?
play against the Rangers on Friday.
Yeah.
And for anyone like who didn't see the video, he basically is just within the offensive zone. Howla and I don't remember the other player are kind of coming. They kind of sandwich him, and they sandwich his left arm, right? So you have kind of these two opposing forces and Crosby's arm in the middle. It happens really fast. There isn't really an angle where you see like a bend or break or anything like that. Break is probably too strong of a word because yeah, if it was a break, we know he'd be out of the tournament at this point. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
like you can see that it bothered him right away. He didn't practice and they play tonight against Philly. I don't think we have word yet of whether he's playing or not. I gotta assume he's not playing no matter what, whether he's in the Four Nations or not. Yeah,
I think
that's
that's
kind of
fair. I
yeah.
yeah, no, listen. I think come hell or high water, even if he misses the first game of the Four Nations tournament, it's only a four to five game tournament. If he misses the first one, is that when we start panicking? Like when is the panic going to set in for Sidney Crosby? Because he is the captain. Like that is the captain of the team.
Yeah,
So
panic's the wrong word. Like I think we're like you look at like who the replacement option is. It sounds like it's Mark Scheifele for any injury that Canada happens to sustain, and we'll get into like some other names that are going through it right now. But panic on the side of Canada and their chances. I don't think I'll have. Obviously, Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby. He's not. He's. I was gonna say he's irreplaceable, but at the same time, I'm okay with Mark Scheifele stepping in his place. So, panic on
There's
Canada's side, not really. I have,
there's so
and
many worse like options to
yeah,
have than
yeah.
Mark
Like you can,
Scheifele like coming in.
it's
Like,
not. Yeah, it's not like Finland having to bring in Henry Jokiharju for Miro Heiskanen. That's not what this is.
yeah.
Um, and so even if we're just isolating it to Crosby, I still wouldn't say panic is the right word. It's almost just disappointment, right? It's this
For sure.
disappointment for him personally. We know that he really wants to play in this tournament. And that kind of is damning, I think, in hindsight to like Alex Pietrangelo not feeling the same as a Canadian veteran who got to be in an Olympics, win a gold medal. Crosby still has that fire to play at international tournaments, and you can maybe question some other players for not, especially when Pietro's out there playing the game still.
Yeah. That one is the one where it's very, very odd that
I didn't have as
especially
much
like
of a problem on it until this Crosby stuff, right? Where it's like when you see your captain lead by example, like I almost wonder if you're Petro now and you're just like feeling a little bit guilty, just a little bit, right?
yeah, maybe slightly, but he has I guess he's already kind of
Yeah.
done his run around the block with Team Canada, so I don't know.
Crosby
I
though,
can't
like, Crosby is the face of Team Canada.
but Crosby is exactly what you just said. He is the face and he knows that he is the face. That's just in Crosby's personality. You know what I mean? I'm not entirely too sure if that's in Alex Petrangelo's personality. I don't know. It's weird to kind of go into like the psyche of some players, and
Yeah.
I don't want to speculate either. Everybody's kind of got their reasons.
Do you
I think
have any do you have any argument for why he should sit out? Like is there I because I tried going through it in
sit
my
out
head. I'm like
of the
just to
tournament.
give yeah, like what argument can you make with valid logic behind it that it's better for Crosby to sit out this tournament than to go play and maybe injure himself? Like if the options are he goes to the tournament, aggravates the injury, he's maybe out for the rest of the regular season, and the Penguins aren't in the playoff race. If that's the last we see of Sidney Crosby this year, not his career, but just this year, is that worth the risk? Just from a legacy standpoint, I didn't go and look at this here, but
I
I'm just like his chase of like milestones and points is the
Mhm.
only thing that he's really got left to succeed
Accomplish
in his NHL career.
for
Yeah,
sure.
unless he's getting
Um,
traded and we're talking back about like cup expectations. Right now it's just putting up points and climbing up the charts, right?
Producer Mando, you've got your own little thoughts about Sidney Crosby.
Just a quick one. I'll stay off camera here. I think to that end of should there be a discussion on whether it's right or wrong for him not to play in the tournament, I really do think that they should just go up to him, John Cooper, whoever it is that's running the show, and going, do you or do you not want to play Crosby? Hey, you could even ask him, do you want to coach, dude? He should be able to
Yeah.
do
Get
anything
behind
that
the bench.
he wants,
Yeah.
really. Yeah. I
Yes,
think that's really the ultimate.
I think no matter what, like if we leave this in Crosby's hands, he's gonna
He's playing.
say he's gonna want to play no
Of
matter what.
course. Of
And
course. Yeah.
I don't think anybody would like quote unquote fault him. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. And I
Of
think that
course.
maybe the conclusion that we're coming to here is it's really hard to, right?
Yeah, I
Like
think
there's
so.
kind of there's not a great argument to be made for why he should sit out. I think that's
Unless
kind of
he
where we're at.
decides, you know what, like I am obviously on the back nine of the career, and I will get another chance at glory in the Olympics, because some people look to this tournament, as you guys are just mentioning, as I don't know, some people have a different view of it as, it's the small little baby brother to the Olympics. And imagine if something happens and he gets injured and, it just derails his whole season and playoffs. Ultimately, I think he knows where the Pens are at and he'll try and drag them in as best as possible. But really, I think to him, he is Captain Canada for a reason. But so it's fair to ask the question, but I think really, unless he decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a week off and maybe go golfing or go to Mexico, I think he'll decide, like you guys say, to play. So
Is
yeah.
is Kyle Dubas not the GM or AGM of this team?
He's in the staff. Yeah, he's in the staff.
So I mean,
I'm very prepared for this. Yeah, I'm very prepared for this to be a non-story and that he ends up going and maybe like you're saying, Dave, maybe he misses the first game, but I really don't see a world where he misses this entire tournament.
For sure.
I almost think that Canada would just be like, dude, even if you have no idea if you'll be able to play in the final game of the tournament, come on board. Um, we'll deal with 12 forwards in the meantime, and we'll figure it out because you're Sidney Crosby. I can just as easily see that. Do you have other Crosby thought or no?
No, I don't have any other Crosby thought, but I did want to bring up like the rest of the people that are potentially out for the tournament. Like, I don't know. So we've got 3 names on this list right now.
Yeah, I would go rapid fire with these because
there could be more after tonight, especially. But Anthony Cirelli didn't play on Thursday versus Ottawa, but he's back tonight. So we're kind of assuming that he's maybe game time for that first game, but maybe like 80% likely that he's playing. Quinn Hughes seems a little bit more up in the air. He what was his lower body?
You know what? I think his has just kind of been a lingering thing. I don't actually know if we've got like any specifics on it. What I wanted to bring up is basically like the latest that we have on his situation, and this comes from this afternoon, like early this afternoon, like just past noon. Bill Guerin, GM of the U.S. Four Nations team, was talking on radio, and he was asked about Hughes' status for the tournament. And his quote was, "I don't think it would be fair for me to comment. He's going through something right now. I really don't feel comfortable commenting on that." So pretty cagey. I don't have the context of having listened to the clip. So just text versus actually hearing it is a little bit different, but I can only go off of what I'm seeing. And that's probably not a great sign from what he said there. I don't love it. If I'm reading the tea leaves, maybe there is no Quinn Hughes for US, which would be a huge blunder for the team as their number one guy. But I was just really looking forward to seeing him kind of with a crazy loaded lineup to see what he could do, because we've seen him kind of put the Canucks on his back for years. So it would have been really cool. Yeah, it'd been really cool to see him in this tournament. Then last name here, if you want to get to him.
Yeah, but Mikko Rantanen also, this must have happened like today or
he apparently blocked a shot
hours?
he blocked a shot in their last game. So I don't think he missed a game, and it does sound like I saw that Frank Cervalli reported that it doesn't sound like he's in jeopardy here, but he's sitting out today. It is more precautionary. He's still going through the evaluation process, but he is sitting out today. Obviously would be another huge blow for Finland. That's another one where it's just like popping the balloon on the momentum for the NHL coming into this tournament. Like, you just want all of your stars there. That kind of leads me to, I think, like the last question here.
Especially the one that's been in the news most recently, right?
Exactly. Well, like, as if like
Quinn Hughes has been as well, but like for different reasons.
Yeah. But like Mikko Rantanen was like, well, the NBA is now like with Luka Doncic, like, guys, look at all this going on. The NHL was like, we were just here in the corner with like, guys, look at Mikko Rantanen, he's pretty good too, right? So I just would want that momentum to keep going.
Last question on this topic is, do you think that we're holding this tournament at the right time? Like, could we have avoided these injuries if we had played in September, like the World Cup of Hockey was in 2016?
So I'm of the opinion, after giving some thought to it, that this is when you want this tournament for a variety of reasons. Here's the reasons that the NHL has given, and we've heard reported on by guys like Elliot Friedman. They don't want to go up against football in September, right? You like already have the All-Star break here, so you get some consistency in that sense. So from a TV point of view, it makes sense. If you guys remember in 2016, that was in September, the World Cup of Hockey. I'm pretty sure it was the finals between Canada and Team Europe that went up head-to-head against a Blue Jays playoff game. You're not going to win that battle. Yeah. NHL was really disappointed in like the ticket sales for that tournament. That was a tough battle for the NHL to win for a not brand new, because it was like a revitalized World Cup format, but you're taking the Jays playoff game, I think, 9 times out of 10 there, right?
That was ALCS as well. Like, that wasn't like a wild card game, or was ALDS?
Like it was, so I think it was like September going into October here. It probably was it probably had to have been the first series. I'm just saying. I
yes,
don't know
yeah,
for
maybe
sure,
maybe you're right.
but playoff game, no matter what,
Regardless,
playoff game, right? So
yeah, and
yeah,
that's
and it wasn't
also
Canada versus USA. It was Canada versus Team Europe.
like
Last,
very
yeah,
preseason hockey. Like I remember that
yeah,
tournament, like those guys had come off of their summer breaks. Like that is basically preseason hockey, glorified preseason hockey to some extent, playing in September,
yeah.
right?
Last thing I've got here is I feel like we always have this like discussion for like any international tournament. Um, but how many injuries can you really recall happening at these international events? I've got Tavares breaking
That's
his
a big one.
leg, right? That's the one that we're all pointing to. But I think this is a little bit overblown. I think hockey players are going to get injured in hockey games. So whether that's NHL games or international ones, yeah, it's going
Yeah,
to happen. I understand NHL owners and GMs and whatever, obviously wanting to have full control of their players' health and not have it taken out of their hands. But I think the last point I want to make is if you're going to make this a mainstay on the schedule going forward, I think it's nice to have it coincide with when the actual Olympic tournament would be, so that you can start putting up the. I don't even want to say putting up the front because yeah, this goes against what I'm trying to say. You want to start having people perceive whatever the NHL tournament is and the Olympic tournament the same.
yes,
That's the end goal here. That is the end goal. So how do you do
100%.
that? You try and emulate the Olympics as best as you can. That means holding it at the same time, and that means eventually getting more countries involved, right? So I don't really have a problem with where this is being held right now.
Hey, Christian, I got a question for you. In European soccer, when they hold the Euro Cup and the World Cup and Copa America and all those tournaments, when do they hold it? Around the same time in August. Every 2 to 4
Yeah,
years. It's
yeah,
always around the same time. And
yeah.
everybody knows, sorry, it would be like late July or late June, early
Unless
July.
it's in Qatar, baby. Unless it's in
Unless
Qatar.
it's in Qatar and it's in the middle of December.
Something tells me the next World Cup of hockey will not be in Qatar.
I don't
That's
think
just a
hockey's
hunch.
going to Qatar for quite a while. If
Just a
we're gonna be
hunch, buddy.
just a quick
Just
hunt.
a hunch.
No, 100%. That second point, especially, is probably the biggest one for them going forward. I completely agree. 100%. Tournaments like these, it's either you're getting this or you're getting the All-Star game. And personally, I'm kind of sick and tired of the All-Star game. 10 years from now, maybe I'm saying something completely different, but we could leave that 10 years from now. I wouldn't mind having international hockey being played around the time that I kind of grew up watching international hockey. Everybody remembers Golden Goal was in the middle of February around this time. It just kind of seems, especially with the weather that we're about to get, dude, it kind of seems perfect for these types of tournaments. On that note, if you had anything else, I think we could just take a quick break and then we're going to come back and talk some more Four Nations. And we're back. Christian, before the break, we talked about some of the injuries heading into the Four Nations tournament. Let's talk about some of the storylines and players who we can kind of honestly say playing some of those games. We're going to start off first with Canada. The biggest question has to be between the pipes. Who do you think between Jordan Binnington, Aiden Hill, and Sam Montembeault, who's going to be game one starter for the team? And on that note, do you think that they're going to run away with the reins?
Yeah, I think anyone maybe trying to predict that second part of your question is like just pulling something out of thin air. Maybe even for the first part too, right? Like it's a very, very mixed bag of Canadian goaltenders. Actually, now that I look at it, maybe it's all the same because I'm looking at the save percentage on the season for these guys. Montembeault's at an 898. Jordan Binnington's at an 899, and Aiden Hill's at a 900 flat. So, yeah, kind of the same all across the board. And I'm just gonna say, like, tiebreaker goes to who? The biggest goalie? That'd be Aiden Hill. Maybe the guy on the best team, also Aiden Hill. Guy who played the most games, I think, is Montembeault. Like, there's really not like a
Maybe the guy that has the most Stanley Cups, and it's two of them
yeah. So
tied
the
for
guy,
one.
the guy whose name I'm hearing come up the most is Aiden Hill, just kind of by process of elimination almost. Like we know we've already talked about how it should be maybe a Logan Thompson or a Darcy Kemper or name this Canadian goalie, that Canadian goalie instead of maybe this trio. But you got to lay in the bed that you've made. Um, I'm probably going with Aiden Hill if I have to choose one. I mean, maybe the fourth option is like Canada just comes out there for opening face-off and there's six skaters on the ice. They just go empty net the whole game.
Honestly, with that trio, maybe that is the best option. That's honestly that is a bit unfair too. I am one noted not a fan of Jordan Binnington, but I do want to pose the question, Doug Armstrong is he not the head GM of this team? Or is he
Yeah, I
like
think
he
actually no,
is a
it's Don
part of that?
Sweeney. That's Don
Oh,
Sweeney.
it's Don Sweeney. um,
Hey man, but
I
listen, you want to play that card? Who would he have, just from personal experience, the most respect for as a goalie? Probably the guy that beat his team in the Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because my point was going to be if Doug Armstrong's on that committee, he's obviously going to put his name forward or put Jordan Binnington's name forward for um for the goal, like for the
Yeah,
goaltending
they're gonna
situation.
vouch for their guys. Yeah, if their guys are on the team, they are obviously gonna vouch for their guys. But
It
it's
does
not really the
seem
case.
it does seem like though it's more of a two-horse race than a three-way tie for it does seem like Sam Montembeault is third on that pecking order.
So here's something that I'm looking this up live. So bear with me here. A lot of people we obviously like to look at like goals saved, like the save percentage, like above average, like goals saved above average is the stat. I'm reading it wrong here, but that's on Money Puck. I'm looking in a different direction right now. I'm going on NHL Edge, and I want to look at high danger save percentage for each of these guys. So I've got Montembeault here. He's an 823, which sounds bad until you
It's very
realize the
good.
league average is 806. So that's 77 percentile here. Let's look at our guy Aiden Hill. Mr. Hill, as we wait for Edge to load.
I
Ooh, below
believe
50th percentile. So
yeah,
he's an 805. He's basically
so
average.
805 is average or 806.
806, and Hill is an 805. All
Um,
right. How about your boy Benner?
I feel like Binner's got the lowest because I don't know
You know
actually.
what? So he's an
I'm gonna go
809.
under.
So he's an
Okay.
809. So he's a 55. So that's a pretty big
But
gap between,
does that not kind of
right?
relate more to maybe this relates more to like the team that they play in front of?
I would say no because it's a percentage stat. If it was how many shots they face,
Mhm.
then I'd say that because right, you're looking at shot suppression, but this is just on the basis of how many shots they like the percentage of shots they've stopped that they get from a
Yeah,
high danger scoring chance.
area.
So I think where we're at is we don't have a good answer here, which I mean sucks. But like, okay, I like I said, I'm still going
Does
with Aiden
John
Hill. I
Cooper
think
have a good answer? Like, does any of
uh,
them have a good
I
answer?
I
Maybe they
honestly I can't
should,
wait for
but
his first like media availability because I bet he's going to just come here like us and just kind of throw it out there and be like, I don't know, we'll see like when the game starts. But I'm gonna stick to my gun and go Aiden Hill. If you had to choose one, where are you going?
I'm probably gonna go with Aiden Hill as well, not to
Okay,
like kind of go on that
oh,
same
it's
side,
fine.
but I could also very well see a scenario where it is Jordan Binnington.
Mhm.
I genuinely think Sam Montembeault just because of I think where his team ranks. Oh, see, that doesn't even bode well for Jordan Binnington because I was gonna bring up the
It's all
argument
over
of
the place, man.
like the team. Okay, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna stamp it. I'm gonna say it's gonna be Aiden Hill.
Okay, sounds good.
Um, on that note, we also have a slew of free agents that are gonna be, or at least yeah, of UFAs that are gonna be there at the tournament. That includes Mitch Marner, Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and Mikko Rantanen amongst the highest of high profiles. Like everybody there is pretty high profile, but those four in particular are probably the highest profiles heading into the summer. Which one of those four, Christian, do you think is most likely to be tampered with by his teammates. And let's also note that 3 of those 4 people are on the same team. They're on
Yeah.
Canada. So
I
which
probably
Canadian
spent
gets hampered the most?
Yeah, I probably spent more time like cooking up this question than actually figuring out my answer. So it's gonna be
Mhm.
like kind of working through it live, which I think is more fun. So things that I think factor in here is like your Mikko Rantanen, for example. How how willing would you be as someone on Team Finland to talk to Mikko Rantanen in front of Sebastian Aho, his
That
now
was
teammate,
immediately
right?
my first guess was,
Okay.
is Sebastian Aho the keeper of the ring, basically?
Right? So it's like he's gonna be the toughest to get to, right? If you're trying to tamper with Mikko Rantanen, good luck because you got to get through Sebastian Aho first. So
But
that's
he,
my
I
first
think,
thought there.
if I'm also going to put on, of the 4, he's the one that has that I think the most to gain or lose with the tampering. Like, I feel like the other 3 that we just mentioned are kind of set in their ways. You know what I mean? Brad Marchand, it has been a lifelong Bruin. Mitch Marner has been a lifelong Maple Leaf. Sam Bennett is enjoying probably the best run of his professional career as a Florida Panther, and Mikko Rantanen
Maybe not this
just
stretch
caught.
right now, but in general,
In the current, I'm saying like in
yeah.
his
Sorry, I
whole
just wanted
duration as a
yes,
Florida
100%.
Panther. Yeah, yeah, no,
Definitely
100%. He's
going more
had,
swimmingly than as a Calgary Flame.
but Mikko Rantanen was shipped out of Colorado in a place I think he thought was going to be his lifelong home, because of whatever, if it was monetary reasons or whatever, they didn't think that they could re-sign him. I think Mikko Rantanen's kind of got the most to gain and or lose depending on how the next stretch of months into the offseason goes for him.
Sure, that's fair. If we want to like keep going with this logic here, Sam Bennett does have a teammate that can protect him on Canada as well, Sam Reinhart. So you got the Sam Alliance going on. Mitch Marner is the only Toronto Maple Leaf. Brad Marchand is the only Boston Bruin. I just almost feel like I almost feel like if you go to Brad Marchand, like he's just gonna like tell you to F off. Like I feel like he can't be tampered with.
I think
There's
you
also Don
have,
Sweeney there.
yeah, that is very true. I think you have better luck um of getting somebody to join the Bruins because of Brad Marchand
Oh,
instead of it going the opposite way. I
okay.
feel like Brad Marchand is the best salesman for the Boston Bruins currently.
So you feel that confident that he resigns then because
Yeah,
he is a
100%.
UFA. So
If
okay,
if he does end up leaving, I will be completely, like, I will come back on this
yeah.
podcast in complete shock.
It would be more surprising than like, would you say more or less surprising or just about the same as Steven Stamkos leaving Tampa?
Um, I would say just about the same. I think it's going to be even more surprising because, at the very least, the signs for Steven Stamkos leaving Tampa were sown the summer before,
It's a good point. It's a good point. That's a very
right?
good point. Yeah, I would say also too, like Marchand, this is not a slight against Stamkos at all, but Marchand, I think, is a better embodiment of the Boston Bruins culture than Stamkos. Like when you describe a Boston Bruin, the AI generated photo will look a lot more like Brad Marchand than when you describe a Tampa Bay Lightning. I
As
don't know
Steven
if it like
Stamkos.
looks like Steven. I don't know what it would look like as a Tampa Bay Lightning, right?
No,
Like I just
I
there's not really like
completely
an
agree.
archetype,
I
right?
know what you're trying to get at. That,
Yeah,
like, Brad Marchand is a
yeah,
tailor-made Brad Marchand, and like the 15 years of that whole dynasty is tailor-made for him. I completely
sure.
understand what you're trying to say. They all
Okay,
are rats. They will always be
yeah,
rats. Like, that's
yeah.
kind of going to be the Bruins thing for 20 plus years.
Okay,
Um,
elephant in the room, Mitch
yeah.
Marner. Like I didn't like I don't see this happening. Like I don't like okay, let's look at this. I'm looking at this roster here. Like who is tampering with Mitch Marner here? Um, like it's not like Travis Konecny.
Who
Like
has the
maybe
money?
maybe the Colorado boys. You got
Maybe.
three Colorado dudes. So just by numbers, right? You corner
Yeah.
Mitch Marner in the dressing room. You're Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and Devon Tays. Oh,
Nathan McKinnon, somebody that he
oh,
practiced with off season. So I wouldn't be surprised
oh!
if
Look
there's
at that.
already been some communication. I
Okay.
think the thing with Marner is that I don't know if I would be as I wouldn't. It's tough to say because everything goes against like him leaving, like Toronto kid,
Yeah,
grew up a
yeah.
Leaf fan, whatever. But if anybody of the four has some reason to just get away from the current team that they're on, I think Mitch Marner has the best reason amongst the four.
Okay.
And that's just because the past 3 years, 4 years have kind of been a living hell. Like
Yeah.
constant harassment on social media, constantly in the news. Like, if you go to Colorado, I don't know if that type of stuff happens to him.
It's
But
true.
I'm still resigned to the fact that he's going to be resigned and a Maple Leaf by next year. I
Okay.
don't know. My bet though of the four, if we're gonna answer this question, my money is on Mikko Rantanen, even though
Okay.
he has somebody there
Yeah.
like to talk to him, just because his is the only
He's
one
got the
with
biggest
of
price tag, maybe, right?
he's
Yeah.
got the biggest everything. He has the biggest
Sure.
target on his back right now. Like everybody was talking about the Mikko Rantanen deal, what, 2 weeks
I'm
ago?
sure guys are gonna come to him and just be like, "Hey, dude, like, what happened there?" Like, just out of curiosity, not from a tampering perspective. He will
A
just
hundred
get the
percent.
most questions about his situation. That's right. Okay. You want to move on to the next question here?
Yeah, no, 100%. The hold on. It is who do you think will be the breakout player of the tournament? I don't even know if I have a thought because I could think of Canadians. How do we want to think of this one? Because is the breakout player going to be somebody from the team that wins? Because like
I don't think it
realistically, it
has
could
to be. It just has to be like
somebody who's just turns
relative to
head.
like individual expectation. Like maybe it's a player who like starts in a team's bottom six and ends up scoring like three goals in the round robin. They lose in the semis. You can phrase it however you want. Do you have a name, or you want me to go first
If
here?
you've got a name, I would, yeah, you could take it.
I've got two names here.
Okay.
Canada wise, give me Seth Jarvis. I feel like he's a guy who maybe didn't get as appreciated when he was named to the roster. Him, Sorelli, and Sam Bennett are probably the three that got the most like, why did this guy make the team? Right?
My pick
I'm
is Anthony Cirelli for.
okay.
I'll find
Okay.
another one as well, but I
That's
think
fine.
Anthony Cirelli is my pick. Even
That's
regardless, like even though he's a two-time
sure.
Cup winner, I still think very underrated.
I
But
just think Seth Jarvis is just gonna he's going to exceed
it's
expectations. Like he
it's a
has like type of
byproduct.
guy. Yeah,
It's a byproduct of where he plays. Like he plays in Carolina. They kind
it's
of
a good
flame him
point.
out by the Eastern Conference Finals. It's a
Yeah,
team that everybody talks about, but nobody talks about the players and individuals on the team. Maybe they
sure.
will now with Mikko Rantanen on the team. Like you're kind of going to start to see more individualism, but no, 100%. I think that's a great pick.
Two things that are kind of leading me there as well. Um, he's like a coach's dream. Like Rod the Bod loves this dude. That's something that I think does come into play on an international tournament. You want a guy who you can kind of just throw anywhere as a coach because you're dealing in such a small amount of time. Um, and I think his personality as well is going to lend himself to someone that people will gravitate towards by the end of the tournament as, wow, didn't know this guy had this. He's just one of the more outgoing, funny dudes in the league that I think maybe people don't give him, not don't, but don't know. They don't, not enough people know how great Seth Jarvis is.
For
So he's
sure.
my pick. My second name that I'll throw out there, not really have a great basis on it. This is just one of my quote unquote guys. Really hoping to see like a Leo Carlson step up for Sweden. That's
It's a great pick.
another guy who people were just kind of like, why is this guy on this roster? Especially because producer Mando's got a guy who didn't get named to this team, William Eklund, who's kind of been fantastic this
Been
year.
great.
Leo Carlsson's only got 9 goals, 9 assists for 18 points in 47 games. It's not great. It's not. Um, Kind of similar to what I was saying about Quinn Hughes earlier in the pod. Curious to see what he looks like with a ton of talent around him, and really just curious to see like how do they use him. I don't know where he's going to be in this lineup.
So I do have another name for
Okay,
you. And it's somebody who's been regarded in years past. Capo Caco, former second overall pick, in a new change of scenery now. This year with the New York Rangers, in 30 games, he had 14 points, 4 goals, 10 assists. In 23 games, though, with since being traded to Seattle, 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points. He's been a part of one of the best lines in hockey alongside Matty Beniers and it's not Jerry McCann on his line.
is he
Um,
getting some Bjorkstrand action, some
Eli
Tolvanen,
Tolvanen. It's Eli
scored
Tolvanen.
against the Leafs?
He did. Though those three have been awesome for the Seattle Kraken. They've been producing goals. They also don't allow as much. They're more defensively responsible. And for Capo Caco, that's somebody who's kind of just been dragged through the mud. I know we've come on here and we've talked about him, and we still kind of question. I know you
I
especially.
wasn't
You
a
were
believer.
like,
I
you
wasn't a
weren't a
believer. Yeah.
believer. Yeah,
No.
100%. I think now that he's kind of finding his feet a little bit. He's getting a bit more mature. He's 20, 23, turning 24. I think Capo Caco is going to turn some heads. And listen, Sweden might finish fourth out of the four teams, but I still think out of everybody there, Capo Caco is one of the players in this tournament with the most to gain.
That's a great
So
pick. I really like that one. It looks like producer Mando's on your side too. That was his pick. That's probably someone I overlooked, but momentum's on his side, and then I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some of the challenges there for him in New York wasn't really on the ice, but just the pressure, the coach, things that we didn't really get to see as much come to light, and that kind of rings true in the quotes we got from him right before he left, right? Talking about the coach. So I really like that pick. Winner
um
here, like I,
yeah.
I feel like we're all gonna go Canada, so like we can get that out of the way. So maybe we jump to the just this.
Uh,
This is just
I
like throwing a
do
dart at a board here. You got
I
okay. You
do
got
have an
some.
outside. I have an outside. I don't know, for some reason, I can't get past Sweden. For some reason, I think the Swedes are just going to go on a run. How hot especially how hot William Nylander's been over the past
And
month, at
he
least the past
always
3 weeks.
kills international tournaments. He's a
Yeah,
killer. He's a
a
two-time world
hundred percent.
championship
Lucas
MVP.
Raymond has been fantastic all season. He's another
Yeah.
one. Did you bring
The
him?
injuries though, Dave, that's the thing.
That
The
is,
injuries, right? The
mhm.
goaltending. You've got
Yeah.
Gustafson. You do still have Mark, but the
I
Markstrom
I
and
have
William Karlsson, you lost.
I have so
Still
much
feeling
stock
it?
in I have so much stock in Philip Gustafson. It's genuinely
True.
unreal.
Yeah.
And that was going to be my next point. I think they might have
Maybe
one
he's
of
the
the
breakout
best.
goalie,
Maybe he is the breakout
right?
goalie, especially playing on a Minnesota team that again doesn't get as much coverage. And now that
Yeah.
they're down Kirill Kaprizov, they've had to kind of hold steady. And Philip Gustafson is a big reason for that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna concede. I hope it's Canada. Game-winning goal we have on here. That's such a tough one. Like
Just throw
who
a dart at the board.
it's gonna be Sidney
No,
Crosby.
not even
Golden goal
rationale.
part
Okay.
two.
All
Just
right.
give me golden
All
goal
right.
part two and I'm fine with it.
So I'm gonna go like kind of same logic. I obviously like your heart wants it to be Sid without a doubt. Um, I don't think this is gonna be McDavid's golden goal moment. I think it's actually gonna be someone who scored the golden goal, if you want to call it that, against him in this year's Stanley Cup Final, Game 7. Give me Sam Reinhart.
Sam
Guy
Reinhart.
just scored a Stanley Cup winning goal. Give me Sammy to score the gold medal winning goal in this
So
tournament.
dude, that's a very, very good pick. Producer Mando, do you want to come on and just give us like maybe your I think you put this thing down. At least give us like your game winning goal if you have one.
Yeah, I didn't put it down, but I love the question. I think if I had to pick, and yeah, like I think Canada's the only fair answer here. Somehow they're going to make a deke around one of these unbelievable defensemen on the US team. I'm not going to name who because it's a really strong core, but it's just going to make it that much more impressive. I just have a hard time thinking against like Nate, the Nate dog. I
Yeah,
mean, that
That's
guy,
a great show.
he
Great show.
and maybe it's just because I'm a little biased in that yesterday I was watching Colorado Edmonton and he's just like an animal out there. He does whatever he
yeah.
wants and he controls the play. But I just see him bowling around a guy short side and just Crosby's obviously got the golden goal. I think Nate deserves some love with his fellow countryman, fellow Nova Scotian, and takes the cake there.
Yeah, I
Good
don't
show.
hate that pick as well, dude. That's a
It's
very
you
good.
can't you literally cannot go wrong here.
You
There
can't
is
go
no
wrong
going wrong.
unless
No
it's
Absolutely
going wrong.
not.
somebody unless it's Austin Matthews and the U.S. win.
Yeah.
Which
Um
at the end of the day, dude, I would love to see that. Like that, awesome,
that
good for
would
him. But
that would
that
be
would
such a
hurt.
tough one. That would be
That would
tough to
hurt.
stomach. Real quick, I just wanted to throw in a little bit of a Leafs tidbit here. It's kind of going as we've recorded here. I've tried to see forgetting any more details. There is something, but just to lay it out, Anthony DeMarco, the Daily Faceoff writer, he's pretty plugged in on Philly, threw this out on Twitter this afternoon. Sounds like trade talks are heating up around the Flyers center Scott Laughton. Sources indicate Leafs and Jets are two of the teams who have shown the most interest, but handful of teams in the mix. Since then, we also found out that Rasmus Ristolainen isn't playing today, and just saw this as well. This is a new tidbit from about half an hour ago. Fraser Minton and Nikita Grabenkin healthy scratch for second game in a row in the
For the Marlies.
AHL. Two scouts were in Chicago for that Chicago versus Nashville game for the Leafs. Stuff is bubbling to the surface here. We can maybe save this for next episode. I know we got to run here, but safe to say I am a Scott Laughton fan.
Yeah.
Not really a Rasmus Ristolainen
Does
fan. We'll see if one or two or maybe somebody else is a Leaf next episode. I don't know.
does Scott Laughton pass that sniff test though? What, should we
I'll throw
lay
yeah,
out what our
I'll
sniff
lay
test is?
it out here. Me and Dave have had this conversation before. We just call it the sniff test, specifically when it comes to acquiring or like just posing the question if the Leafs should acquire a certain player. And basically all it is, you just ask yourself, could you see Scott Laughton in a Boston Bruins uniform or a Tampa Bay Lightning uniform? And I think these days you could just ask yourself like the Florida Panthers, basically
Or
just the
Panthers?
rivals in the division, right? Guys like Nick Paul, right? That's been a name. Barkley, Gaudreau, Blake Coleman were those type of guys as well, but that was earlier. I feel like Nick Paul is the best
Nick
example we've
Paul.
had of one of them. Garnet Hathaway to Boston a couple
Big
years
one.
ago was a huge one. So Scott Laughton, 100% passes the sniff test with flying
Who
colors. Like, no doubt about it.
who's the other guy that went to Boston? Somebody went to Boston last year that we were like heartbroken over. It was
I
Garnet
think it might have been.
Hathaway.
I think it
It
was
was
because, dude,
Garnet
they got
Hathaway.
Dmitry Orlov, Garnet Hathaway, and Tyler Bertuzzi. And
Yes,
Bertuzzi,
that's
we were
right.
like, they got him for like a steal. It was right near the end of the deadline. And we're like, oh my God, of course this guy's a Bruin. And we saw him as Leaf. It was all right. It's all
Yeah.
right. So listen, the
Does
sniff test it's not a like a soundproof method, but it's just something we
Tyler
ask
Tyler
ourselves.
Bertuzzi as a Bruin though, 5 goals in 7 games. Like he brought it.
He
So
passed the Bruin sniff test with flying colors as well.
definitely did.
I'm all for
So
Scott Laughton. His goal celebrations are 10 out of 10. He's got the
yeah.
Viking look on his face. The angry eyebrows really help. He's a local guy from Oakville. Safe to say I would be interested in him being a Leaf. Price dependent, of course, but just the player himself, big fan.
So if we get to the trade deadline, that's March 7th, I believe, March 6th.
Yep.
Um, if it's only Scott Laughton coming through, is that enough of a big ad to satisfy you?
Um, Once again, price dependent, but the player in isolation, he's a 3C through and through. That's what he is by definition. I did see some Flyers people say he actually is better on the wing than at center, which isn't it's
Mm,
not great to hear because that sounds like another guy we have that was supposed to fill his role, cough cough Max Domi.
hmm
But I think if you got Scott Laughton and then filled in around the edges, specifically like another defenseman, like for a fourth round pick or something like that, kind of just emulating
Somebody
like the
play on that
Labushkin
right
deal.
side.
Just another body that is like a number 60. I don't think I'd hate the deadline. I don't think I would.
I do want to say, 1 game goal streak for Philippe Myers. How can you take him out of the lineup right now,
Hey man,
Christian?
he's hot. He's hot, and he's hot
Got
on the
a
mic too.
cannon on him.
He does.
He is hot on the mic.
One of the hottest shots in the NHL, man.
Dude, yeah. Philippe Myers is just such a beauty.
You're becoming a fan?
I'm buying stock in Philippe Myers going forward, I think.
Okay.
Well, like we mentioned, Rasmus Ristolainen also scratched from today's game for the Flyers.
Yeah.
If he say the deal comes through and it is Laughton plus Ristolainen for whatever, we don't have to get into Toronto side, that's just speculation. Would you be able to cope with him being on Toronto's blue line? For some context, this is a guy who is only a few years removed from winning a green jacket in the NHL.
Winning? What the hell is this guy talking about?
He is a winner. He's winner of a green jacket, minus like 55 or whatever it was that year. He was not good.
You're right. He's been not good for many, many years. Here's how I would cope with it as a Leaf fan. Torts has come to this guy's defense this year. That's all you can really hang on to as a Leaf fan. That's kind of it. That's the end of my argument. If Torts can come to bat for this guy, that's all I've got.
Yeah. My rebuttal as a Leaf fan is, aren't you the same guy who benched Kevin Hayes and Matt Michkov in 12 months?
No comment.
So listen, I completely. John Tortorella, one of the most well-respected coaches, known as a hard ass, because we saw the article come out this past week that it's unfortunate we didn't get to this week, but John Tortorella got lit up. Also, shout out to Mike Babcock, an inactive head coach, getting votes against being one of the worst coaches to play for in the NHL. But John Tortorella, he led that list. John Tortorella is known as a guy who you hate to play against, but you also hate to play against the teams that he coaches for, because he seems to kind of squeeze the blood out of a stone in most cases, right?
I especially respect his opinion like on defensemen, because you know that he prioritizes defense first. So like I'm even more willing to hear him out on someone that he has on his blue line in a defensive role. That's how I'm gonna cope if this happens. Who knows? Maybe by Monday it's a reality. We'll see.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to the Second Look Sports channel. Leave a like, comment. In the comments, give us your predictions for the Four Nations face-off. I want to hear who you think's going to win. I want to hear who you think's going to score the game-winning goal. You heard from us. On that note, that's all the time we have for today. Hopefully, we'll see you guys next time.